Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gita, chapter 2, text 14. I'll read the verse. Matrasparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Translation: O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, or sign of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magh, January, February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is a religious principle of the Kshatriyas. And although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya, illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharat signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duty. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the translation again, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, or sign of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. We're on chapter 2, text 14. Just in the previous verse, the topic was on the actual identity of the soul, as well as the fact that he enters another body at death, and a sober person is not bewildered by such a change, of changing the body, dehantara prapti. When the soul dies, which Bhagavad-gita calls as dehantara prapti, the soul changes the body, transfers to another body. So a person who is dhira, a sober person, is not bewildered. So Arjuna should not lament for the death of those who will die in the battle, because they entered new bodies. That was the point in the previous verse. They would have entered new bodies. Okay, so in this verse, the subject is now a little different. Arjuna is depressed at the thought of losing his relatives. He knows that there's going to be a war, they're going to be killed. So Krishna is telling him, do your duty, tolerate the depression. In the previous verse, it was do your duty, because even if you kill them, they'll take another body. In this verse, it's do your duty, because you have to tolerate any kind of depression and don't let it disturb your duty. That's the message. Now, we find in this material world, there are modes of nature. It's known as a material world, Devi Dham. And it is characterized by Maya in the form of the three modes of nature, Sattva, Tama, and Rajagun. And because of the guna, whoever is covered by the guna is affected in different ways. For example, he has attachment, fear, anxiety, anger, and desires, longings. And this is the characteristic of one affected by the modes, guna. So sometimes the fear is more, sometimes it's less, sometimes there's anxiety or worry or anger or lust. Different changes come depending on his destiny. Our time has been calculated in this birth at a certain time due to influence of different planets according to our karma, which depends on the nakshatra we're born. So we are going to suffer or enjoy a certain way. This is known. This is for sure. So in normal material life, it's something like a roller coaster ride. You know, a roller coaster. In the fair, they have the train, it goes up and down, sometimes upside down like that. So we're not just in one position, we are going left, right, up, down, and we're in a very disturbed situation. Of course, people like that. So in normal material life, it's something like that. There will be depression, then happiness, then sadness, then anxiety, then stress. This is material life because they are modes of nature. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a verse, Tasya hetu prayate ta kovida na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyada ta labhyate dukhavat anyatha sukham sarvatra kalena gabira ranghasa. So Narad Muni is instructing that the kovida, one who is intelligent, he is not concerned with endeavoring for any gain because he knows that gain and loss comes of its own accord. Tasya hetu prayateta kovida na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyada. He's not going to try to get that thing which he'll get anyway in every life, which means happiness, sadness, and different material situations. They'll come on their own as they, for in every species they'll come. Talabhyate dukkhavadanyatha sukham sarvata kalena gabira ranghasa. Because he understands that these things will come on their own accord, sadness and happiness. So when the sadness comes, he doesn't try to come out of it. And when the happiness is not there, he doesn't seek it. And when it's come, he doesn't start to relish and enjoy it and then become morose when that situation goes. Because he understands the plan of this world. It's like a roller coaster. So many changes. So according to our destiny, we'll get a nice period, a peaceful period, or a very disturbed situation will come in our life at a certain time. Astrologers can tell you this. It's known practically. Once you know that when someone took birth, then we understand the planets which are exerting influence on him. And then we can understand what his situation will be, because the planets keep changing and shifting around. And astrologers know when the planet goes here or combines with that planet or this, then someone will be affected and how they'll be affected. So in Vedic culture, they knew how to harness this whole science, Jyotish, astrology. They could predict. And predicting why? So that you could prepare yourself, and you cannot stop it, but you can prepare yourself or minimize it. It's a higher culture, basically. And they could know a lot of things. Shani Dasha, the Saturn, when the influence of Saturn comes, there is suffering, material suffering. But spiritualists like it because it's purification. They get purified. Okay, so there's also in Jyotish, they could tell different periods for doing different activities. They knew that at this particular period, it's good to start a business, or it's good to start on a journey, etc. So that means that our life, in our life, there's going to be a lot of changes, ups and downs, and we can even know them. Everyone in Vedic culture understood this point, that there's going to be so much disturbances. So what do we do? What do we do about it? When these disturbances and happiness come, so in the bad periods, should we become depressed? Should we become upset? Oh, I'm suffering so much. Why am I going through this suffering? And in the good periods, shall we relish them, enjoy them, and become happy? And when their changes come, do we change our life? Do we change our religious activities and our dharma, our duties? So no, Krishna is saying no to Arjuna. He says that these are non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress. It's non-permanent. I remember I was in some years back in Malawi, and there was a sticker stuck on many cars. Every problem has an expiry date. I kept seeing it's popular sticker everywhere. Every problem has expiry date. It's a fact. Whatever bad situation comes, you can understand it's not going to last. Just like if a good situation comes, it won't last. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't be disturbed. Now you're disturbed because these people, you're thinking that I'm going to kill them or they'll be killed. What will happen? I'm so depressed. But Krishna is telling Arjuna, you have a duty. You have a duty to perform. You have to do it. Don't be disturbed by the external situation. It will pass. Sad period will pass. Even the happy period will pass. Okay? So why should you react? If a depressing time comes and our sadhana, should it drop? Or our duty, should it drop? No, because it will go. If a happy period comes, it will go. So we should not be affected by that. I'll give you an analogy. Many people travel by trains here in India. Yeah. So wherever they want to go, they go by train. And especially in long journeys, people come on in the compartment, and in one berth, there are about 6 people, 6 beds. So at that point, when these people are there, when you enter the train, then it's normally not so clean and very basic. So no one thinks that let me clean it, let me decorate it, let me put some pictures, let me change it in whatever way, let me try to put some fixtures or fittings. No, because they know I'm just going to leave now. I'm going to leave soon. In the next stop, or after one day, 24 hours or 12 hours, I'm going to get out of the train. So there's no need to adjust anything. So that's the idea. So now why we can compare this to our lives, that everything's temporary and we're just passing through. And when the sadness or happiness comes, it will pass, it will go. So why are we making so much effort to try to change it? In the modern day now, material life consists of, actually, generally material life means trying to adjust everything for my happiness. There's no need for that. You cannot change it. Whatever is our destiny will come. Whatever is the money that has to come will come. Whatever food has to come will come. Whatever medical problems, everything will come and go. It will come and it will go. So that's not what our activity should be. Our activity should be to simply practice Krishna consciousness, practice our sadhana. Because the various other changes will come and they'll go. We shouldn't be concerned about them. Material life is adjusting everything to try to make everything pleasurable or happy for us. But spiritual life is just do your duty, and whatever material changes come, we don't react to them. We're not supposed to react so much. Now, one significant point in this verse is not only sad, depressing moments, but even happy moments should be tolerated. Tolerate the happiness. What does that mean? Well, the happiness here they talk about is material happiness, which is temporary. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayonayavati adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Krishna tells Arjuna that the intelligent person does not relish in material happiness because that happiness has a beginning and an end. So he doesn't try, does not seek it, does not relish it. So here it says, when that period comes, tolerate it. When material happiness, some good situation comes, okay, that's very good, very happy, but we are not attached. When it stops, okay, let it go. As a sad period comes, a difficult period, I'm going to go on. If you observe devotees, wherever we travel, wherever we go, we have the same life. We're not supposed to react to this material world. For example, sometimes we travel to other countries or other cities for preaching. So some people ask us, so how do you like this town? So many times we went book distribution around different places in India. And of course, I was in Africa, in 3 different countries. And sometimes people realize, oh, you're not from this country or not from this city. So how do you like it? And I, just to please them, I say, well, it's okay, it's good. But actually, the fact is that wherever we are, it's the same. We're not going to eat out. We're not going to go and see the local disco or eat in the famous restaurant or whatever, go on the tour. No, we'll do our morning program. Then we'll go out and distribute books. We'll try to preach, and we'll do that wherever we are. So it's not a question of where we are, because it's the same activity. Because material world is more or less the same actually everywhere. Prabhupada said that I was in India, and when I came to UK, I realized, when I came to America, I realized everything is the same. The people are the same. There's no big change. We are thinking America's like that, Americans are like this, Indians are like that, Africans are like this. But actually, if you analyze, everyone has the same anxiety, same desires, same goal. Okay, so according to this verse, even the happy periods should be tolerated, but they're temporary. So should we be sad? That I'm saying that we should, when material happiness comes, we shouldn't be concerned too much. So what, should we be always sad? No, it's not like that. Because our happiness comes for someone who's doing varnashram, who's not in bhakti. Simply following varnashram dharma is pleasing to Vishnu. For those who cannot practice Krishna consciousness, they gradually come to a level of Krishna consciousness by practicing varnashram. Okay, so their happiness comes from following their duty. Because if you follow your duty, varna and ashram, then Krishna is very pleased. Krishna becomes pleased and you feel happy. And that's their happiness. Whether it's raining or it's sunny or it's hot or cold, whether they're in a happy situation or sad situation, they do their duty. And because of that, they are happy. So the happiness comes, one who does their duty. If you know the story of Mahabharata, then we know how the Pandavas suffered so much in exile. So once Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas, was scolding Yudhishthira Maharaj and telling him, why are we suffering? What has your following of dharma achieved? You like to follow dharma, you like to do your duty so much. And look, we suffered so much. We're going through suffering now. What is the point of following your duty and following your dharma, as you always emphasize? Because Yudhishthira was the son of Yamaraj. Yamaraj is known as Dharmaraj. He has excellent knowledge about dharma and he's dharmic. So Yudhishthira replies to Draupadi by saying that I don't follow dharma to get a good life or happy life. I follow dharma because we have to follow dharma. So that's the point. We're not following it to be happy. We're not following it to be sad. The point is that we have to follow dharma. because it is the words of God. But if we follow dharma, we'll be doing our duty, Krishna will be pleased and you will be happy. Okay, same thing like for anyone in any varna, or even for a woman has her dharma, Stri dharma. Women's duties are given. Okay, so now that happiness doesn't go. The happiness that comes from following dharma, which means also following Guru and Krishna and following Bhagavad-gita. It is the duty of the jiva, the soul, to follow the Krishna, God, through the Shastra, through the words of Krishna, through his instructions in Bhagavad-gita, and through the Guru, his representative. So, if one follows this dharma of Guru, Krishna, Shastra, and Varna and Ashram, then he'll always be happy. And he'll not be affected by this turbulent material world, which is so ashashvatam, prone to change at every step. Okay, so now Krishna is telling Arjun that he says, you're morose because you're looking at all your relatives and you're thinking that, they're going to die, and you're becoming so depressed because of that you cannot fight. Okay, so Krishna is telling Arjun, in other words, don't let it affect you. You have a dharma, you have a duty as a Kshatriya, and you have to do your duty. That is the role of the jiva. At any cost, he has to follow Krishna. In a liberated state, he follows Krishna. In a bound state, he follows the Shastra and words of Krishna, which help to elevate him to Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is telling Arjun, don't be disturbed. The happiness and sadness come and they go, just like winter and summer seasons. Shitoshna sukha dukkada. Happiness and sadness, it says here, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. It's calm and it will go. When summer comes, we're happy, okay, summer's here, it's a relief. Then it gets too hot, then, when is winter coming? And we know summer will go. And then winter will start and winter will go. Everyone knows that. So we're not too concerned. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that there will be upsets, jubilations, happy events, sad events, but you should do your duty without disturbance. And that is somebody that is known as Dhira, a fixed person. And when we reach that stage, then we are suitable for liberation. As mentioned in the next verse, actually, it says there, Sama dukkha sukham dhiram so amritatvaya kalpate. One who is balanced in sadness and happiness, so amritatvaya kalpate. He is eligible for liberation. Okay, so in the same way as Arjun, we have our duties. We have our duties of Krishna consciousness. For example, we read Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam every day. We chant a fixed number of rounds. We preach. We follow the duties or instructions of the Guru, Sri Guru. And in this way, we follow the morning program, Mangalarati, and all the programs, temple programs. So we should not be disturbed in our duty because of happiness or sadness. A lot of things change and happen in this world, but a devotee should continue his practice. If he develops that, then he'll come to a transcendental stage. In that transcendental state, he's not going to be affected by the material modes of nature which are causing us to suffer. I mentioned in the beginning that the material world has modes, and because of these modes which are impelling us, we are becoming morose, happy, sad, depressed, and stressed, in anxiety. When somebody does his duty, then he becomes not so much affected by these things, particularly when one practices bhakti yoga under the guidance of a guru and follows his instruction, because Guru is Sakshat Hari Dvena. Guru is actually a representative of Krishna. So when somebody follows the Guru properly, then he comes to a transcendental stage. And then the modes are not affecting him. Sattva, Raja, Tamagun, they're not affecting him. Well, pure Shuddha Sattva means spiritual, only Sattva Guna. That comes if we reach the transcendental state. So one has to become fixed in his duty to Guru and Krishna. And in that way, we are not affected and we become more happy. So our happiness should be derived from our service to Guru and Krishna, not from material things or situations. And that's not so easy because we are infected by the modes of nature. But we should know that in Bhagavad-gita, Krishna speaks about the modes, but then he says how to transcend these modes. He says that Mamupete tu konteya punarjanma dukhalem ashashvatam nabnuvante mahatmana samsiddhim. Sorry, that's a different verse. Mamchayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in my full devotional service, avyabhicharena bhakti. Mamchayo avyabhicharena means not contaminated by any other desire. The desire only in his life is to serve me, which is a very high stage, but that's what we have to reach. One who has a desire in his life only to serve me, mamchayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan. He transcends the modes of material nature. Sagunan samatityetan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. He comes to the spiritual platform simply by bhakti yoga, by serving Krishna instructions and serving the Guru. So one comes on the spiritual platform. And at that point, when he is on the spiritual platform, the modes of nature are not acting, then automatically he's free from all the negative emotions of anxiety, stress, depression, lust, desire, attachment. He transcends all of these because they're born of the mode of passion and ignorance, the lower modes, but he's transcended them due to being fixed in the service of Krishna or Sri Guru, who is no different from Krishna. So we also have our duties and we should not be affected. Our duties should not be affected by external situations. We should go on. This materialist world is known as Ashashvatam. This is in chapter 8 of Bhagavad-gita. Dukhalem ashashvatam. Napnonte mamupete tukanteya punarjanma dukhalem ashashvatam. Ashashvat means not permanent, temporary. This material world is shifting constantly. Shashvat means fixed. Something fixed, like a mountain, it's fixed. It's not going to move. Ashashvat means something is always moving or changing or transforming. So this material world is always changing, and that's very annoying for us as souls, because the soul by nature is eternal, and soul is shashvat. It says in Bhagavad-gita in chapter 2, in one of the verses, describing the soul, ajo shashvata nityam ayam purano. He is unborn, primeval, ever existing, shashvatam. But we are ever existing, and we don't change. The soul is fixed, is himself. Like I am Murari, I'll be Murari. We don't change. We are fixed. So we don't like it when things change so much, so fast. And in Vedic culture, they have a schedule. They'll follow the schedule. They'll follow everything day in, day out. This is Sattva Gun. When we have a fixed schedule every day, a certain time to do everything, that helps in bhakti. That is Sattva Gun. And it helps us to come on the spiritual platform. So spiritual life is like that. You see devotees, they have a fixed schedule of Mangal Arati, then evening Arati, Bhagavad Gita class, then this program, that program. And this is very pleasing for the soul. But this material world is not like that. Everything changes according to our karma, influence of the different stars and planets. And whenever you get a situation, now I'm okay, everything's fine, and then a wave comes and destroys everything. So in that way, it's very disturbing for us as souls. So this material world is ashashvatam. And therefore, we should not allow ourselves to be affected by it. Don't be affected. Just accept this world as it is. Whatever we are born into this world, we have a certain body, certain kind of mind, certain destiny. Our aim should be simply to learn to love Krishna again by following his instructions in Bhagavad-gita and carry out the orders of Krishna and Guru in whatever situation we're in. Sthane sthita shuddhigata antarvan. Sthane sthita, wherever you are, however you are. Of course, it's good if you can be in the ashram, because then we are surrounded by different impetuses for serving Krishna. There is the deity, prasadam, that is there. But the point here is that this material world is ashashvat, so we don't like it. But if we simply don't allow ourselves to be affected by it and stick to our duty, then we come on a transcendental platform. And this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. In the next verse, he elaborates on it. Somritattvaya kalpate, sama dukkham sukham dhiram. One who is fixed in happiness and sadness, he is eligible for liberation. So now in this verse, another point is made. It says here that matra sparshastu kaunteya. They arise from sense perception. Okay, so why is it that we're being told not to get affected by this happiness and sadness in the material world? Because these are temporary things. Not only are they temporary, but they are kind of illusory. What we are seeing is happy or sad. That's not it. It's just an event. For one person, it's happy. For another person, it's sad. When rain comes, farmers are happy. City people, in their ignorance, they become upset. Oh, it's raining. How will I go home? Everything will be waterlogged. They don't understand, oh, hey, rice and dal, it's coming from the farm. And they need rain for that. So the happiness or sadness of this material world, they're due to sense perception. It's not actually depressing or happy. It's our perception. How are we seeing it? Our conditioning. Okay, so many examples we can give for that. If a certain political party wins, some people become very happy, others will become sad. So is it that the party is anything? It's having any particular property? No, because some people have a certain conditioning and they see that event a certain way. Others have a certain conditioning or outlook. They see that event differently. So they become affected. Like in sports, same thing. And example, if someone sees a beautiful woman and becomes attracted, okay, what about the dog? Well, what does the dog see? And what about a lion? Lion sees lunch. And someone else will say, oh, this is a beautiful woman for enjoyment. The lion will say, this is my lunch. That's what he thinks. So what is it? What is it? Actually, it's according to our perception. This is what Krishna is saying. That everything in this world is because of our perception. Matra sparshas tu kaunteya. So don't be affected. It's illusory, it's temporary. Okay, so don't be bewildered by the different plays of material nature, which depend on our conditioning. So there are so many examples like that. It's like winter and summer season. Now winter comes, we feel cold. And some people like cold, some don't. So some will be happy, some won't. It's not that the cold is good or bad, but our perception is different. Same with summer. So it's all sense perception. And this is another reason why they're mentioning that we don't have to be affected by it. Just like if you watch a movie, there's a happy scene. And, someone who's, okay, some people are very much affected by movies, they'll become happy. And some will become depressed. But it's a film, it's a movie. Devotees don't watch films because by watching it, we get more in illusion. Actually, we're already in illusion in this material world. So when you watch a film, there's happy and sad scenes, but we know it's a film, it's a drama. Even in a drama, we're not affected. We said it's just a film, it's a drama. So in the same way, this material world is like that. It's not all factual in that sense. It's our conditioning that's causing us to be happy and sad. And maybe after a few years, we'll be affected differently by certain events. So in this, this is the reason also that Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't be concerned about this. Okay, what is reality? Reality is Krishna. Krishna's reality. We should be absorbed in Krishna. We should be absorbed in Krishna's holy name. That is reality. Krishna's pastimes. Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad-gita, they are factual. They are the same 5,000 years. And before that, 2 million years ago, he spoke to Manu. Before that, 120 million years ago, he spoke to the Surya Bhagavan, to the sun god. Same instructions. It's the same instructions. Because Krishna is reality. It's factual. Okay, so we should be absorbed in Krishna. Krishna's holy name, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's instructions. And understand everything around us is always going to change, and it's not factual. It's a play, it's a different permutations and combinations of the modes. So we shouldn't be absorbed. Devotees don't get absorbed into politics, sports, and common daily material events. No. We simply focus on Krishna, Krishna's reality. Service to Krishna is Sat, reality, eternality. Service to Krishna, chanting Krishna's holy name, and absorbing ourselves in Krishna's instructions, following Krishna's instructions. Then, when we do that, we become merged in Krishna. And gradually, we also become spiritual and transcendental and not affected by modes, as Krishna is not affected. Krishna says, Name karma phales briha, that I am not affected by Name karma phales briha. I am not doing any event to get the fruits of the action, and I'm not affected by the actions because he's not in the modes. So when we worship Krishna, absorb in him, we'll also not be affected by the modes of nature. So in this way, one has to absorb in Krishna, not in so many other events and things of this material world. And don't be disturbed. We may hear the news and follow events for preaching purposes, but we should understand that there's a supreme controller, and his name is Krishna, and he's 101% in control. And if we're serving him, then there's nothing to fear. Atyanta dukkha nivritte. The way to end suffering and sadness. Atyanta dukkham nivritte. Atyanta. The way is by bhakti. The process of bhakti. If we absorb ourselves deeply in bhakti of daily reading Srimad Bhagavad-gita and Bhagavatam, chanting 16 rounds, and absorbing ourselves in services, then we are not affected by this world, and we are not anymore depressed, and we are transcendental to the modes. So this is the message to Arjun, that your duty as a Kshatriya. So you should continue your duty, and it shouldn't depend on external material situations. So in the same way for devotees, our duty, our sadhana and everything shouldn't be affected by it. It's easy to say we may be affected, but we have to gradually practice not to be affected. And if we are just absorbed in Krishna and service to Guru and Krishna and Bhagavad-gita instructions, then we won't be affected by this material world. And that is perfection. And that is the way of perfection. Simply absorbing ourselves in Krishna. Okay, so Hare Krishna, there's some few minutes left. If anyone has any question on this topic, you can either type it or just you can say it now in the mic. You know how to unmute yourselves. This is chapter 2, text 14.
Prabhu, I don't have any question.
Okay. So this is chapter 2, text 14 on tolerating tolerance. Titikshasva bharat. Devotee tolerates also. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's another verse. Titikshava karunika suradam sarvadehina. Oh, Yamikani has a question? Yes. Can see. Oh, you can speak louder. I'm not getting it.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, be closer to the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for class. I have a question.
Yeah.
I've been hearing about three modes which bind us in this material world.
Yes.
So at the same time, Krishna has explained that there are 24 elements in this world. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that is
Like
chapter.
yeah, the senses. So
Yeah.
I've been thinking like, what are really these modes? What are they? I don't understand.
What are the modes of nature? Your question.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
What are
Okay, I'll explain you. The explanation, if you see the picture in Bhagavad-gita, it's not in every edition, but in many of editions of Gita, they show three personalities controlling two different people with strings, like a puppet. No puppet. Puppet can control it, a doll. And there are many strings. By shaking the string, that doll can move. So this word guna has two meanings. Guna can mean something like mode or quality in Sanskrit, and it can also mean rope. So when we say guna, the analogy is in both of these words. In terms of rope, we can say that we're all controlled by guna, just like a puppeteer controls the puppet, the doll, by the ropes. So we are controlled by Rajagun, Sadagun, Tamogun. All of us have different mixtures of these gunas depending on our past life, whatever actions we did. So according to those actions, more of a certain guna is in us. If one has more tamogun, then they're more inclined to procrastinate and madness and sleep and inactivity. If one is more infected by mode of passion, then he has great material desires to fulfill. So he works hard to fulfill those desires. In Sattva-gun, it is a state where the Sattva-gun rope or Sattva-guna is controlling us more. So we are having more knowledge. We are more peaceful and relatively happy and satisfied. To compare these three, one way to compare is to say that, like if someone has a fever, three people, one has a slight fever, one has more of a fever, and one is very much affected by the fever. So this modes of nature in the tamogun is heavily affected by material nature. Completely our spiritual nature is almost covered up. Rajagun means that the material nature is a little less covering. Sattvagun means the least covering of material nature and Maya. So we're not so much affected by this illusion and all this. Okay, so guna or Maya, these gunas are different modes of Maya. Maya affects us in different modes, less, more, and a lot. So that is the different modes. And it's not something you can see. Like, I cannot see the mind. I cannot see intelligence, but it's there. So the guna is there. It's affecting us because it's working under Maya Devi and she is working under Krishna. It says in Brahma Samhita that Durga Devi, she conducts herself according to Govinda. So she's under Krishna and accordingly she bewilders us depending on our past life desires. So the guna is there present and it's impelling us according to our past life, what we wanted to do. So that guna controls and pushes us to do that activity. So yeah, it's a very long topic. It's introduced in chapter 14 of Bhagavad-gita, discussed again in 17 and 18. Yeah, but it's important to know about guna because as it says in chapter 14, which describes guna, the text 1, Krishna says that I'm going to give you knowledge now, which is higher than what I've given so far. That means understanding guna is very high level of knowledge, understanding how it works, because you have to come out of it. That's also not easy. Param bhuya pravakshami jnananam jnanam uttamam yajñatva munaya sarve param siddhim ito vataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all sages have attained the supreme perfection. Then in the next verse in chapter 14, which is introducing guna, Krishna says, Idam jnanam bhashitya mamasa dharma madataha pralaye sargeno pajayanti pralaye na vyatanti cha. By becoming fixed in this knowledge of guna, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Krishna is saying, you can get a body like me, a spiritual body. So it's important to know. You can read chapter 14, but I found that Prabhupada's small books explain this nicely. Yeah. At a separate time, I can explain you more if you want. More explanation needed. Yeah, I hope I answered that. Any?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can we say one acquires different types or mix of guna because of these past activities?
Yeah. Everyone has
and,
yes.
And how do you link that up with karma?
How do you link
Gunas
that?
and karma.
Okay.
Guna,
So,
yeah, karma. Yeah, yes.
Yes, because of our past actions, we have a certain mixture of modes now. This is called swabhava. Everyone has a different swabhava. Swabhava means our guna mixture. Because if you want to put it very technically, because we associated with certain modes in the past, so now they are stuck with us in the present. Like if you play in the mud sticks on you. You know. So similarly, just like if you see a cook, depending on what is stuck on his apron, you can understand what he cooked. So in that way, you mess around with the guna, that guna sticks to you. In the next life, it's there. That's how it comes. And your question is karma and guna, how to link it. Karma means action. In other words, action in guna. You're associating with guna. You're doing some sense gratification in a certain way, sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. And so, because of your karma in the past life, in this life, you got a swabhav, certain guna, mixture. And that impels you to act in a certain way that you were doing in the past life. You wanted what you desired in the past life, in this life, okay, now you became rajasic. So you play out your rajasic desires. Like that. Okay, so any other question?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so I think we can end it. Okay. Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki jai.
Good.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.